We have a public hearing. Citizens petitioner, Mark Gould, discussion of a special home rule act to reduce senior tax burden in the event of a positive vote for a school department. Debt exclusion. Mr. Simmons, could you open us up, please?
Town of North Attleboro Town Council, public hearing on citizens petition, March 10th, 2025. Town Council will hold the public hearing in the Joanne Cathcart Conference Room in the Town Hall located at 43 South Washington Street on Monday, March 10th, 2025 at 7 p.m. on the following public hearing. The citizens petition has been submitted by Town Councilor Mark Gould to North Attleboro's Town Council. Will hold the public hearing and take action on said petition as follows. Petition to reduce taxes on seniors if high school vote passes. We petition the Town of North Attleboro Town Council to hold the public hearing and take action on said petition as follows: to direct the town manager for the town council to adopt a special act to take effect only if the debt exclusion vote passes to build a new high school. The intent is to protect seniors with low income or assets from having taxes increased to an unmanageable level to protect seniors' health and homes. I make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Simmons, a second from Mr. Costello. Is there any discussion? If None, all in favor say, I'm sorry, Ms. St. Pierre?
Aye.
Costello?
Aye.
Mr. Gould? Aye. Mr. Shanahan?
Aye.
Mr. Logan?
Aye.
Mr. Donovan?
Aye.
I am a yes. Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
All right, we have, that motion passes 8-0. The public hearing is open. Mr. Gould, you're the lead petitioner. You're welcome to address the council this evening.
Thank you. So I thought it'd be best to start off with the PowerPoint, if that's okay. I don't know if we need a short recess to get it going, or if we're okay.
No, I just couldn't see.
So thank you for all coming out, and finally we got to the main event. We all know that North Attleboro is a place that we take care of each other. We look out for each other. Tonight's an opportunity to look out for our seniors. Let's start with something light, because honestly, tax discussions aren't usually the highlight of anyone's week. So here's a thought: you know you're officially a senior when your back goes out more often than you do. Thanks for laughing. After numerous decisions with stakeholders, including the town manager, other councilors, school committee members, and residents, I've amended this proposal in two ways to better align with community concerns and priorities. You should have received updated handouts reflecting this. I believe that this proposal is beneficial to our seniors and will help the whole town. The two minor changes are: the senior exemption is no longer tied to the high school. And even better, would now take effect regardless if the residents approve the debt exclusion or not in June. Some felt the original, I'm sorry, was there?
Oh,
If this council approves it, yes.
point of order. What was that, Mr. Donovan?
Well, the public hearing says that this is to take effect if the debt exclusion vote passes to build a new high school.
The measure also says.
The amended measure.
Exemption for, what amendment?
Oh, there is. Sorry, I just want to make sure we're clear.
Well, regardless of what's in the measure, what's in the petition and the public hearing that we're having tonight is about the high school.
Could we do this on discussion rather than the presentation?
Sure, it caught me off guard because I didn't realize there was an amended measure, so that's why you brought it up.
You're moving the goalpost,
Yeah, but
but, okay.
sure, let's proceed.
Thank you. So this stems from overwhelming support for helping seniors. Some felt the original proposal was too closely tied to the school project, which could be perceived as divisive. Untying the exemption from the school project seems to do the trick. This works well because it focuses back on the original purpose for the senior exemption, which isn't the high school. It's that seniors need help to afford the rising costs of living. Seniors have fixed incomes, medicine prices going up, prescription, healthcare, assessments are going up. And secondly, we've clarified the relationship with the circuit breaker credit. This proposal now explicitly recognizes and builds upon the circuit breaker. Some raise concerns about how this exemption interacts with state tax relief. There was some confusion. This clarifies the circuit breaker is the foundation for property tax assistance. This proposal, the senior exemption, would fill the gap. So I'll explain that when we get to it in the slides. Those are the changes. Our seniors, but the presentation, the meat of it's the same. Nothing's changed. It's helping our seniors afford rising costs of living. Our seniors have been carrying this community for decades. They have weights on them. Some of them are finding it hard to afford to stay in their homes, as many of them said last time. It's not that they aren't willing to contribute to the community. It's quite simply they can't afford to anymore. It's not about handouts. It's about ensuring that our seniors can continue to live in the community with their children, with their children's children. They want what's best for North Attleboro, and we've always supported our seniors. This council especially has always had their backs. Why would we stop now when they need us the most? Next. This proposal strengthens the community by providing targeted tax relief. I know that we had a tax relief proposal like a month ago, and the councilors' reactions and some of the public's reactions was, why don't you target to the people most in need? This does that. This strengthens multi-generational ties in our town. The seniors have built this town. They've given back to the town, the community, in countless ways. Now they need support, and we need to step up for our seniors. Help them afford to stay in their homes, promotes community stability, diversity, and long-term strength. There's really very little downside to helping our seniors. Our communities have successfully adopted, other communities have successfully adopted similar exemptions with resounding success. I'll point out some communities later in the slides. This proposal is about ensuring fairness and keeping North Attleboro a place where everybody is welcome and supports each other. Next, please. So this council supports our seniors. We've maxed out all the senior exemptions unanimously, every time. Clause 17D is a $350 exemption. There's limits and qualifications for these, assets and income. Clause 41C is a $1,000 exemption. We also have the senior property tax work-off program. These provide much-needed support to our seniors by extending this framework to include another exemption, the senior exemption we're talking about tonight for $1,000 would help fill the gap. It would take pressure off the waitlisted seniors on the 40 selected for the senior property tax work-off program and help those seniors that are not part of the 40 selected. Next, please. Looking at the costs of our current exemptions. So the 17D cost, we have 14 seniors using it this year for a cost of $4,900. It's the column on the right. The 41C, the middle exemption, we have 18 seniors, the column on the right, for $18,000. And lastly, the senior work-off this year is $40,000. Next year, it's anticipated to be $80,000 because each senior will be eligible. Whoever, the 40 seniors that get selected into this program will be eligible for $2,000 instead of $1,000 next year. So we're moving in the right direction. However, it's not enough. We've got hundreds of seniors that qualify income and asset based, and they're being blown about by economic winds, and this will help make that fair. The seniors are disproportionately impacted. And I will note that this does not include veteran and blind exemptions, which I understand Mr. Borg, I think he said those are an additional $350,000-ish.
We currently set aside in the overlay $350,000 for all the exemptions other than the senior work-off program.
So we do support our seniors, our blind, our veterans. We're doing everything we can currently. This would be an addition, something that we can do to help seniors more. Next. So I did keep this slide in here because we can't ignore large expenses on the horizon. There are also upcoming costs, as we just discussed, about $28 million on water PFAS remediation in the next few years. So the ratepayers' rates are going to go up too. And seniors are being pulled in many directions. This is about keeping seniors in their homes. The cost of this $1,000 exemption would be $17 per year estimated average cost. This number was calculated by the assessor's office. It's a best estimate. The calculation's on the next slide. But, I mean, just to think about $1,000 for the seniors to help them to satisfy their needs of life for the cost of a kid's meal for 17 bucks. Next, please. Back, thank you. So this is the breakdown for the $17. The numbers on the slide are the assessor's calculations. Is Cheryl, are you here?
She's here.
Oh, great. So using an estimate of 116 applications and $1,000 to be exempted per each results in a value of $9.8 million to be exempted from a total residential assessed value of $5 billion. So it's essentially less than 1/1000th of the total budget. It's a very small amount in the big picture, but it's very meaningful to these seniors. The estimated tax rate would change from $11.79 per thousand to $11.82 per thousand. So it's a 3 cents change per taxes in your evaluation. So for the average single-family home, that is $17.09. It's important to note these are best estimates based on best available data, estimating the exemption cost, the number of applicants, the value of seniors' property, the value of non-seniors' property, the tax rate for next year, the shift for next year. How was participation estimated? So based on data from the assessors, there's currently 14, 18, and 42 people using the 3 exemptions that we offer. So that's very low participation rates. The last number we have for the circuit breaker participation is 332, and that was from a few years ago, the last year the DOR kept records. So adjusting that for seniors that are renting and would not receive the senior exemption because they don't pay property taxes, but they get the circuit breaker. Adjusting it for seniors that have not lived in North Attleboro for 10 years. Adjusting it for seniors that don't max out the circuit breaker credit is the 116. So that comes down to a very manageable $17 per other resident to give this opportunity for our seniors to make ends meet. Next. So other assistance for seniors. Now, wait a minute, why don't they just use the senior circuit breaker tax credit? Why do we have to do this new senior exemption? So let's talk about that. If it's okay, who here uses the senior circuit breaker credit? Nobody?
You get a couple.
Okay, you got a couple. But you got to use that first or you don't get this. So when you do your taxes, whoever does your taxes, strongly recommend you senior circuit breaker tax credit. Talk to your tax preparer. So this tax credit would help with that. The formula is a little complicated. As you can see, it's property taxes plus 50% water sewer bill, minus 10% of income, and that's your circuit breaker credit. The problem is it maxes out at $2,730. So it definitely helps, but it's not enough. So we'll break that down a little bit further, but there's a gap. Most people max out the senior circuit breaker tax credit, so that's where this senior exemption helps. So the next slide will give you an example. I don't know if you can see that, but try to follow along. So it's Joe average homeowner pays $6,718 in taxes on an average house in North Attleboro. Half of the water and sewer bill, we're plugging in $1,000. So the total tax burden, $7,718. According to the US Census Bureau, the average retirement income in this area is $36,000. So you take 10% of 36,000, 3,600. You subtract that from the tax-related expenses, you get 4,118. I'm seeing a lot of glazed eyes. But the senior circuit breaker credit covers 2,730. So there's a delta of, in Joe Average example, there's a $1,388 gap that's not covered by the senior circuit breaker credit. That would be covered if we do the senior exemption. And you can, run many of these. I have run many of these. And the senior exemption covers the gap where the circuit breaker maxes out. Why is there a gap? Why doesn't the circuit breaker solve the problem? Why do we have this extra that's not covered? Because the circuit breaker helps many seniors from tax increases, but when their income is low and their home value is assessed higher, then that's when the gap's more prominent. There's commonly a gap, but when you have the lower income seniors and their assessments keep going up, then the circuit breaker doesn't cover it all. So by locally extending this additional protection, this additional 1,000, the circuit breaker's 2,730, adding this 1,000 would make it 3,730, if my math's right. So the other question is, but won't the senior exemption shift funding from the state to the town? No. And then this is what other towns have done. Other towns, our current 17D and 41C exemptions are locally funded. So means-based exemptions are locally funded. That's how it works. But this proposal, actually, if you go to the amended actual law here in the handout, Section 2, Part 2 says, the owners of the qualifying property must have filed in the immediate prior year for the maximum circuit breaker income tax credit. So you only qualify for this if you maxed out the senior circuit breaker credit, that's your first stop. I don't know if I mentioned that yet. Senior circuit breaker first stop, senior exemption second stop. So the state funding shifting to the town is not an issue. Any questions about the circuit breaker? I don't know if I dare ask.
You won't qualify for the circuit breaker. You won't get the $1,000.
Right, we'll get to the criteria in a coming slide. It's the same qualifications, yes. That's a good question. So the next slide talks about other, maybe back one? Okay, I'm missing one, but okay. Let's just go forward and see if I'll find it later. Okay. So this proposal, I'm sorry, I don't know how that happened. Okay, yeah, forward one. Yes, that's it, thank you. So the other choice would be the tax shift, and that's, it's a good thought. Next year, maybe we'll shift the taxes to help people a little and shift a little towards businesses, but that's not the cure-all for the seniors' problems. As you can see, we're at a 1.27 shift. We are here up at the top. So the max shift would be 1.5. And again, these numbers are from the assessor, who's smarter than me at this stuff. If we go to the max shift, the residents would save in the blue circle to the right $268 next year if we max shift. The senior burden would, I'm sorry, not senior, the business burden would be $5,241. So That doesn't really work. To only get a 267 benefit to stick the businesses with $5,200. So how about something more realistic, a half shift? If we go halfway between 1.27 and 1.5, it's 1.385, we get a $130 benefit. If we do a half shift, we'd stick the businesses with 2,600, which probably also isn't ideal, but we'll discuss this next year when we go about to do the shift. The purposes of this is just to show that it doesn't cover close to the $1,000. Probably a more realistic shift might be $20, $50. So next slide, please. So how does this work? How does the senior exemption work? Well, this isn't new. This is something that piggybacks on the two exemptions we have, the 17D, the 41C. Many residents are already familiar with the process. They already give the assessors their forms every year. They meet the criteria. You need to give whatever the assessors ask, your tax return, your bank statements, to prove your income and your assets. It's targeted assistance. It's very clear, transparent, and it only helps those who truly need it. It's a practical solution, ensures fairness, fosters community without introducing anything new or unfamiliar. Next, please. So means tested just means that we test the criteria, the income, the assets, the ownership, and we're applying it in a way that helps our seniors. Next. So the criteria, that's what you asked about. So we need to have, so other towns that are doing this chose to mimic the circuit breaker criteria, which makes sense. We're not recreating the wheel. The income requirements is $72,000 if you're single, $91,000 if you're a head of household, $109,000 for married filing jointly, and they're adjusted annually, tied to the CPI. The age is 65 for a single applicant. If you have a co-applicant, the co-applicant has to be 60. You need to live in the property. You can't have two houses and get two senior exemptions. It's got to be your home. You have to have lived there and paid property taxes for the past 10 years in North Attleboro. And there's other asset criteria. If the assessor determines that your assets put you above the intended recipients, the assessor can say, you've got too much money in your bank, sorry, you have to pay your fair share.
What is that limit? What's the asset limit?
It's, well, it's subject to the assessor's discretion.
I know, but like, what was it this year then? Or what would it be?
It would be individual circumstance dependent.
State 275.
For,
75,000.
it's different for each exemption. There's a
If it were adopted, I would think we would have to set whatever that guideline is at that point, because it hasn't been adopted, so there is no limit as of right now, because it hasn't been adopted.
Right, so and it'd be administered the same way it is now. Next, please. Unless anyone has any other criteria concerns? No? Okay. So the assessors administers this the same way they administer the other exemptions. Each year they estimate how many exemptions, how many abatements, how many appellate tax board cases. They take that money, they put it into an overlay account, which apparently we approve as part of the budget. That is included in the levy, and the overlay account is available to pay anybody that applies for an exemption during the year. You say, I'm qualified, here's my papers, you take the money out of that account. Very organized, the accounting's very transparent. It goes from that account and covers your portion of the tax levy. But the last point I want to make on this slide is that real estate taxes are not optional. North Attleboro we can't do this by ourselves. We need to follow the state law. So to change this, to adopt this exemption, we just can't do it tonight. If we all wanted to do it, we'd have to ask the state to do it. It's called a special act. So next page, we'll talk about a home rule petition special act. So home rule petitions, we've actually never done one since we became a city. We've done some before, but none since 2019. Cover a broad range of subjects. Cities and towns all the time get these approved by the state legislature. They're the most common bill that's passed by the Massachusetts legislature. The process is straightforward. The council votes, then the Senate votes, the House votes, the governor signs. That's the special act process. The Senate and the House, they have their own policies and procedures. I've been in contact with the state rep and the state senator, and they said as soon as we give them the go-ahead, they can go and get them approved. So next slide. Other communities. Important to note that many other communities have approved these. Actually, Hopkinton approved 2 of them. They had a special act in 2018, and then another one in 2024 for school building projects. Carlisle, Norwell, Holliston, Sudbury, Westford, Hingham, Williamstown, all did this last year. In 2024, there are about 8 to 10 special acts for senior exemptions. This is a hot topic. Many communities are recognizing the value of this senior exemption for seniors. They're balancing the need to support seniors, and their actions show this exemption is already being used. It's a proven solution to ensure that new developments don't disproportionately affect seniors. In fact, our state representative filed 4 bills just this legislative session that started in January to reduce the burden on seniors' taxes. This is what Massachusetts is doing on bank. We're, as a whole, addressing the problem. The seniors have this issue with rising taxes and fixed incomes. They need a solution, and we have the power to give it to them, as we've always done. We've always supported our seniors, and there's no reason we should stop now. Next, as we move forward with this process, it's important to understand the approval pathway. It's the same steps. It's largely outside of our control. The legislature's timing includes elements like urgency, complexity, and whether similar acts have passed. Here, similar acts have passed. This is practically verbatim to other acts. With the speed we want to help our seniors, I have no doubt that our representative and senator would go to bat for our seniors. So it's up to us to put it in the hands of our legislature. So this proposal is about making community cohesion, valuing everyone's contributions, and making sure that our seniors are not left behind, especially those that have worked so hard for this community to thrive. It's a win-win for everyone. Seniors can stay in their homes without financial stress, and the community's free to increase developments and work as a team to get things done for our community. If anyone has any questions, otherwise, that's the presentation.
Anybody else wish to address the council this evening? Yeah, please, you can sit or stand, it's up to you.
I'll stand
All the
again.
microphones are working.
Mr. Boone, just to clarify for me, the $17 increase, is that per thousand value of their house on your tax bill, or is that just $17 every quarter?
3 cents per thousand. Oh,
You said it was going to be a $17 increase.
oh, average on the single-family houses.
Okay, and
to
that's-
take care of the seniors.
So is that per the full value of the house, and then the town breaks my tax bill up into quarterly payments? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Is it just going to be $17 added to my tax bill? Just a flat 17?
No,
it
the average
depends on your
home.
assessment.
It just increases
So-
Okay,
the
my house is assessed at, let's say, $400,000. I have quarterly payments that I have to make.
So are you a senior applying for the senior
Yes, I am a
exemption?
senior,
So you're not paying the $17?
It's not you that's paying.
but I'm talking about other people. I'm trying to have you clarify
So
me to
if they
explain
have a
how it
low
works.
assessed value, that it's going to be less than the $17.
Okay.
So if it's half the average assessed value, it'd be half the $17,
Okay.
roughly.
All right. And the average quote you gave there for a tax of, I think it was $6,200,
67,
something
I
like
think,
that. Right? What was the
6,700.
value of that house? I'm curious.
570,000,
570,000.
that's the average assessment.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Please step forward, ma'am, and then the gentleman in the front. Get you first. She was first.
Good evening. My name is Adeline B. I'm at 27 Cuttings Lane. I've been here for over 20 years at this point, and taxes have seriously increased in that amount of time, and I know seniors are struggling. Is the mic off?
Not a microphone, it's for
Oh, well.
it's for North TV. You're doing great on North TV.
Okay, I'm
though.
doing great on North. Okay, well, I'll speak up a little bit more then. In that case, seniors are struggling in North Attleboro. Our taxes have doubled and then doubled again in the last 20 years, and this additional amount is going to do the same thing. The circuit breaker does not apply to the majority of people who live in this town, mainly because of assets. Most of us don't reach the maximum on probably our house value, but assets, we probably do. So
There's
that's a
actually-
problem. Can I finish, please?
There's no asset
Mike-
limitation.
Yes, there is. It's a $275,000 asset limitation according to the state. And then the assessors make a decision as well on that, depending on where they go with that. But the point is, have you thought about anything else for seniors? For example, in Rhode Island, there are some of the towns there who, when you reach, and I won't say it, we should do it at 65, but it would be nice, at 65, taxes are frozen for seniors. So whatever they're paying at 65, that's what they pay for the rest of their lives that they're in town. I mean, you could make that 70, 75, whatever. Have you thought about dividing up the amount of money so that you have your municipal and your schools and so forth, and when someone reaches a certain age, the school piece either drops in half or eliminates completely, depending on what the percentage is, and I know usually it's about 50% of your budget, if not higher these days. But you could be doing something like that. That would help all seniors. All seniors. And if you wanted to put a maximum amount of money, I guess, on income, that's fine. But at some point, seniors have been paying their entire lives. So if they're 70, they've been paying since they went to work, probably at 16, taxes into the town. They've raised their kids. They've participated. They've passed overrides. They need something at some point. There needs to be a stop. So my thoughts were, suggest maybe something beyond a circuit breaker option.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
There's the gentleman in the front row was had his hand raised, and then you.
That's a tough
You don't have to.
John Angelo Sando, Kelly Boulevard. I had similar thoughts. You know, I've been here for over 4 decades, paid for a Martin School overhaul, new middle school. I don't even know what we're paying for town, the trade school now. That was passed, right? How much money does that figure into the taxes,
$7 million a year.
but average to each customer?
That was
Well, it doesn't raise your taxes.
that was covered in our operating budget. So your taxes did not go up because of the tri-county
It did
school.
not.
We were able to cover that with our town operating budget.
Free cash.
We didn't have to go to the voters.
Okay, if you say so.
I do say so. I do say so.
That is accurate.
Okay, so at any rate, when you all get there, when you all get to retirement, you're going to find that things get tough fast.
Yeah.
You've received your last paycheck. You're living off of Social Security, and if you're lucky enough to have a pension or two, fine. But the world is different. And this $1,000 a year for the new high school, which is, I thought, what we're going to here to talk about tonight. That is a killer. $1,000 a year is a killer. And, I think, something serious has to happen with that. And it's got to help all seniors, all retirees. We're all in the same boat. And I can't say it any better than you did. I don't know, those are my thoughts. There should be something across the board to reduce that $1,000.
Yeah, this would just be $1,000. It's not related to the high school, it's just $1,000. It's the same amount, but it's
In
not
my
tied.
head, it's always related to that high school. That's what's behind the whole thing. Let's be honest with each other.
All right, let's keep the conversation through the chair, please. Ma'am, please step forward, state your name and street. You're welcome to sit there as well.
Sit there.
if you care.
I'll go over there.
Okay.
It helps to walk. Hi, I'm Joan Gustaff. I live at 66 Hillside Road. I was unaware that there was an amendment placed to this proposal, and I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear that there are other thoughts regarding this issue. I'm also glad to hear other thoughts that are presented today to this issue from the public. But I wrote something, and I'm going to read it. One major concern I have comes from the chaos of what is happening with this federal administration. There is much talk about attempts to reduce Social Security benefits and reducing, possibly even eliminating Medicare. Both of those items would greatly reduce my abilities to pay my property taxes. An even greater concern is that the present administration is cutting programs left and right. One of the programs will likely be reducing benefits to the states. And since the state of Massachusetts is at odds with the present administration, and their retaliation is their modus operandi, I am concerned that the state won't receive the monies that we are expecting. And since at least half of the money to build the new school is expected to come from the state, I'm afraid that the state won't have as much money to give North Attleboro. I've lived in North Attleboro for the past 25 years, and though I've been told that I'm a newbie, I've paid 25 years' worth of taxes, and that was a lot of money. Even though I never had any children, much of the money I paid in 25 years of paying property taxes was used for the school system. I've supported the schools because it's the right thing to do. A couple of years ago, there was a major adjustment of our property values that was based on selling prices of homes similar to mine. My property taxes went up over $600 that year. Last year, property values went up again, and my taxes went up another $350. I'm already paying out an extra $1,000 a year in property taxes. And you're asking me to pay another $1,000 a year to support this new school? I can't afford it. I retired 5 years ago. I'm 73 years old. I know I don't look it. And I did retire 5 years ago, and my income is presently my Social Security payment. I'm fortunate that my husband is still working, but he plans to retire within the next 2 months, and his income will then be his Social Security benefit. I'm also fortunate that I can afford to pay an extra $1,000 a year this year in property taxes. But in 3 or 5 years, when my COLA will be smaller, but costs continue to go up, I'm not sure what I'll be able to do. Will I have to sell my house because I can't afford to live here anymore? I feel like I'm being taxed out of town. I appreciate that there is a need to replace or repair the high school in town. I'm a former high school teacher. I was taught that if I don't have the money to buy something, I can't buy it.
I'm asking the board to consider offering greater tax breaks to the senior citizens in order to keep them living in North Attleboro. I referenced what an earlier person said. Many people, myself included at least right now at this year, because he's still working, I couldn't get the senior circuit breaker. He's still working. But in 3 to 5 years, when my money is greatly diminished and expenses have gone up, I don't know what I can do. Perhaps the answer is to tie the rise in taxes to the Social Security COLA. I can't tell you I know what the answer is. I just know that I can't keep paying out what I don't have. Finally, to the select person who's concerned that offering a lesser tax rate or reduced taxes to the seniors in town will create division between seniors and working families, I offer you this. The decision already exists. Excuse me. The division already exists. Seniors use less services than working families, yet are already paying the same amount. Our incomes are less. By forcing these higher taxes on seniors, we're being divided right out of town. Thank you.
Sullivan. How are you, sir?
I'm good.
See you.
Not terrific, just good. My name is Ron Legassi. I live at 179 Glenfield Road, and since everybody else is bragging, we just passed our 60th year in the house. Yeah, it's paid for. This whole proposal that I've taken out of this is based on the senior credit. And the number you've used is with a married couple. We've been married forever. With a married couple, it's $109,000. Let me tell you this. For the first year, the state government has keyed the senior discount to income levels, and I promise you that it's nowhere near the $119,000 that you're using. If you don't believe me, I tried filing under the old system, which was just you write down the 2730. From that, you get a letter saying hi with their hand out, I promise you. So you better understand how the senior discount works as opposed to what I've seen in terms of.
It's higher or lower?
High. Let me tell you, it's a lot lower. A lot lower.
109?
It's a lot lower than 109. It's probably 5/8 of that in best case. And if you hit 5/8, you're in a situation where it's diminishing based on income. I mean, you can get the 2730, which is the max. You can get, based on your income, you can get half of that. Based on your income, you can get none of that. What you do is you subtract the number that you work up from another, your income number.
Right, the taxes minus 10% of the income.
I don't remember what the formula was, but let me tell you, a letter, hi, you need to pay. So you better make sure you know what you're basing it on. Oh, sure, no, it will.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
It's all right.
Joe Reza, Kelly Boulevard. I've been here 68 years. Second class to graduate out of the high school and even pay taxes to pay off that school. My question is you're talking $570,000 for $1,000. How many people in here's houses $170,000 or under? So you start taking about $1,000. It's not going to happen. when this school tax, I'll call it, comes into effect, is this going to be based on your 570 number, $1,000 every year? Or is it going to grow every year based on the value of your property?
I'll answer this quickly, because if you're talking about the value of the cost of the debt exclusion, if it's an average of $1,000 a year in year one,
Yes.
it'll be $1,000. It'll be a comparable number every year. It's not going to go up or down every year based on 2.5%. It's going to be that same. It's going to be that same.
So that $570,000 home paying $1,000, we'll say, is going to pay $1,000 every year for the
I
next
can't
3 years?
tell you exactly what the number will be, but yes, it'll be.
I'm just using that because that's
It'll
what
be that comparable
you're,
amount,
that's what
$1,000.
you're using
Yeah.
to sell it. So this is what I'm using,
Correct.
trying to do numbers.
Correct. It's true. So it's not going to go up. It's not going to go up based on Prop 2.5. That's separate from our budget.
Okay. When there's,
It's like a mortgage. It's like its own thing.
yep, so what about new growth? Are you going to reduce the people's responsibilities based on new growth?
Not all.
Well, so at 570 right now, if you come out to $1,000, it's roughly $1.75. So if you're gonna have new growth, like 360-some plus apartment houses over here in Kelly Boulevard, there's gonna be a big dollar value of taxes coming in.
We use
Are you
that-
gonna lower the price from $1.75 to $1.72, $1.70? I mean, how's that gonna happen with the growth in the whole town?
If I may.
Yeah, I'm not following the question.
I think what you're saying is, it's a certain amount of money the town is going to owe every year.
I understand that.
And so that's going to be divided over the amount of taxpayers
Correct.
in the town. So those 350 people, in your example, would then be added to the number of people the amount of money would be divided over. So yes, new growth would theoretically reduce
Well, you're
your
saying
cost.
theoretically.
Well, it would.
Okay,
It would reduce the cost.
okay.
Now, yeah, and that $1,000, I believe, again, correct me if I'm wrong,
Again.
but it's tied to the average value of the home. So if the average home, let's say your home is now worth $570, and then home values go up, and then your home's worth $750, for example,
Right.
it's still the same amount of money that needs to be paid every year. So it'll still be divided out over the average homeowner. And so it's not tied to the value of your home. The 570 is just a number to give people a picture of what the impact is going to be.
I understand, and I'm just trying to use that because that's what you're using.
No, I understand
Instead of
that.
making up numbers.
Right.
So I'm just trying to make sure that whoever your dollar value is, mine's going to be like $1,800 every month towards a school tax, I call it.
A
No,
year.
it won't
a
be
year.
1,800 a month.
Absolutely not. No. Absolutely not every month.
If you take
Unless your house is like.
my house,
50
my house
million.
is going up $39,400 a year average over the past 6 years, my value.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just wanna- just make
So
sure
you take
that-
my value of my home,
Not going to go up $1,800 a month for
I
anybody.
didn't say that, I just said that my figure of my house for the school is going to be $1,800.
Because you're saying you're 1.8x the average.
For a year.
Yeah.
For a
That's
year.
over the year. So that's
Correct.
1,800 a year.
I didn't say, yeah, I didn't say
Yeah,
a
okay,
month, I
okay.
just, so,
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
I'm just trying to clarify, you know, if it's exponential going up every year, so.
No,
it's not gonna-
no.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
A reminder, folks, though, that this public hearing is about a senior tax exemption, and it is not about the high school project.
Well, kind of fit.
Not anymore.
It was amended.
He amended it.
It's not.
That's the way they advertise.
Yeah. Mr. Simmons, it's still a public hearing, but if you address it.
I do. So I thought we were coming to talk about $1,000 if the high school passes to help reduce the cost of the seniors. And that's no longer what's being presented to us and to you. Now it's just $1,000 flat exemption without being tied to the high school, which I want to learn more about. I'm not in favor of it tying to the school. I don't want to influence the vote that way. The school is either good for the town or it isn't. My opinion, it is. But I am not in other people's shoes. That's why I've urged everybody, regardless of where they fall on this issue, to respect other people's decisions. You can, like I do, you can say that we need it. You can say that this is the cheapest it's ever going to be. You can say that we have the state helping us, and you can still say I can't afford it. and we have to say, okay, because we don't know your situations, but we know there are people that can't afford it. That's why our goal and our job should be to bring new growth in to try to help spread out the tax burden. That's what we should be doing to drive economic policy to have new growth come in. But if we're now talking about a new senior exemption period, and I'd be interested, if we're going to open it up that way, I'd be interested in hearing a lot of options. The freeze, which I have heard other areas do. I don't know the name off the top of my head. Step increases so they don't go into the full effect. I'd be interested in all of it if it's a general tax program, not tied to any specific proposal. And if it's not being tied to the high school, we don't have to rush this decision. And this is a decision that we can't rush because it would be monumental in town for us to tackle something like this. Without it being tied to the high school, we don't need to rush this now. I don't think we drag our feet. I don't think we go slow, but I do think we follow the normal procedure for something like this and we fully examine it in the finance subcommittee so we can get down to how much it costs everybody else, percentage-wise and dollar amounts. What would the requirements be in terms of income and assets? I think it's a little interesting that we tie things to assets, which you have spent your whole lives working on building, and we want to help you, but you got to sell all your stuff first. That's Mass Health. I'm not interested in something like that. But I am interested in hearing more about this in a non-rushed, educated fashion. And I'm sorry that we all thought that we were here to talk about the high school program, the high school tax. But I am interested in hearing more about a general tax program for seniors.
Thank you. At this point, I'll continue to keep it open to the public before we have a council discussion, if we do. Is anybody who hasn't spoken yet wish to speak?
Over here.
I think I saw the lady in the back right here, and then I saw a gentleman back there. So there's 3 folks that would be queued, should you wish to speak still. 30 minutes away from a mandatory recess.
I don't know. My name's Pat Johnson. I live on North Washington Street. Okay. I try to work the last 3 years for the tax program to help myself out. I'm living on my Social Security and one tiny, tiny pension. Back then, I don't know if you all did, but I worked for companies that didn't always offer pensions. And I worked all my life. I'm 80 years old. I gave up at 76. And I probably still would have been working if it hadn't been for COBRA. But I'm just saying, it's really tough. And I'm getting to the point where I almost can't afford it. I paid my house off. But just living on a Social Security, paying the taxes, the utilities, and everything that goes with it, food. I mean, we have to compromise someplace. We're paying for our insurance. And that alone has gone up and up and up to the point where I don't know what else we can do. Like I said, I try to make every kind of thing count. I do for the water department. I do their little test every year to get $75 off. They're going to pay me twice a year. I put my little container out to get it tested, and they give me the money. I try to do everything I can for myself to help, but it's getting to the point, I don't know what I'm going to do. My girlfriend and I are talking about we may have to sell both our houses and go together someplace else. I might even look into housing, but it's a 5-year wait for housing. That's if I put it on today, and I don't even know if it's not gone up since the last time I checked. So anything you can do to help the seniors. We're at a point where I've been here over 40-some years. I put my 2 kids through North Attleboro High School. I don't know what else you can do, but we just can't make it. I mean, it's either pay the bills or don't eat. And it's getting pretty sad. I mean, like I said, I've tried to do everything I can for myself, and I know some other people have too. And I appreciate the work program. I try to do what I can at the senior house to help them out. So that's my piece. You got to do something, or we're going to have to leave. And I don't even know where we're going to go. My kids can't take me in, that's for sure. I mean, their house is maxed out with their kids and whatnot, and some of them even have their grandkids living with them. So, that's my speech.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know I had a request.
Did you still wish to?
Look, if I just stay here, can you hear me?
No, could you please go to the microphone? You can pick your seat up there or stand.
No, that's okay. Sorry. Sue Longchamps, Edmund H. Nichols Road. I think this has been a great discussion, but I think it's unfortunate that the change to the amendment was made when a lot of us didn't know that there was a change to the proposal coming, and a lot of people here came here because they thought it was about a discount for the seniors tied to the high school, and that's why a lot of us are here. It's, well, 8:30, I think it's 9:30. Is it? And Mr. Gould, you've been posting a lot on social media about showing up for here. That is actually why I'm here.
I mean, it's still $1,000, and
That's not my point. My point is, we're here because you posted on social media that it was a senior tax break tied to the high school, and then we all showed up here today, and it's a totally different thing. That's all I wanted to say. It's kind of, in some way, for some people, it might have been not a complete waste of their time, because this has been very informative, but in some respects, a waste of their time, because that's not what we thought we were going to be here for.
understood. Apologies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
So unfortunately, folks, I have to, by our council rules, I believe, Mr. Simmons, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
We have to take a 5-minute break at the 2.5-hour mark, which we have now eclipsed by 2 minutes. So we have to take a 5-minute break, and which we will do, and we'll be back in session in 5 minutes. We are adjourned.
You can stay.
All right, we are back in session. Thank you, guys. It is 9:41 p.m. We're still in the midst of the public hearing on the senior tax exemption. Are there other members of the public who wish to address us this evening? Mr. Donahue, please step forward.
Okay, do you want me to do here, or do you want me to go up
You're
there?
on a microphone, so I think you're okay where you're sitting, sir.
It's kind of interesting, seeing, first of all, I'm 72 years old, and I'm also on Social Security, and my wife is also on Social Security. And even though the original plan that was talked about, or we thought we were going to talk about tonight, has actually probably opened the door for other things because of hearing what you have to say. Now, with that being said, I'm not a member of the council, okay? And so it's just a suggestion. I very much agree with Mr. Simmons that something has to be done, okay? I would make a suggestion to the council that they actually refer this to the Finance Subcommittee so that they can do a deep dive into looking at a better program where it would help all seniors in the town. Okay, I think that to me would be the better way to go, rather than, as John would say, tying it to the high school, okay? And so it would give us an opportunity to look at other, because this is a very multifaceted type. We have to look at how many seniors are in town, you know, how would it affect the other families that are in town and that type of thing? How would it affect the town budget and that type of thing? So there's a lot of things that play into it. A lot of the towns that were mentioned, you know, on Mr. Gould's slide are affluent towns, okay? And Holliston and Hopkinton are very, you know, very high up on the food chain, so to speak, when it comes to cities and towns. So I don't want to cut off discussion, because I think it's important that you get to tell your stories. But I think that's the direction that the council should take, because this is something For instance, even if whether the school passes or not, okay? Even if the school passes, let's say it passes, and they don't put a shovel in the ground for another year. So you wouldn't start paying on that debt exclusion until they start putting a shovel in the ground. So we have some time, okay? We have some time to come up with a reasonable plan to help out the seniors in town. So that would be my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donahue. Anybody else who hasn't spoken yet? You were first. You had your hand up a while ago, sir, in the back. In the brown jacket, the gentleman in the back. Yeah, please. It's okay, sorry.
Military-related hearing disability.
Mr. Morbido, you still got the microphone?
I do.
Oh, never mind, it's already up there.
I just want to share a perspective I think everyone can relate to, both among the younger who are here and who are employed, and those of us here who have already retired. And that is, when you're in your working years and you perhaps aren't crazy about your circumstances, you might be able to seek more education or more training, enhance your resume, put it out there, and try to seek a better position. And typically, while employed also, you will see pay raises that hopefully are at least commensurate with inflation each year. And when we get to that place of retirement, if you don't know what happens, you almost always end up taking some kind of pay cut in going into your retirement. And while we are not necessarily on a fixed income, because there's always some little thing they'll call a COLA, the idea that it meets inflation is laughable, and we all are experiencing the costs of virtually everything rising to the place where if it hasn't already met your income, you realize it's threatening all of your income, and the next question becomes, what am I going to do? Am I going to stay here in North Attleboro, or am I going to look for other places to go? Some of my very best friends have moved. Tennessee, Florida, Texas. Others are looking. They're looking and saying, where's the better opportunity? Do you know that Massachusetts has the 4th highest cost of living in the entire United States? Now, you can give all kinds of good reasons for it, maybe, but they're not necessarily good reasons if you're already a senior and you're not benefiting from all of those other supposed good reasons why the cost is so high. So anything you can do. I mean, I loved Mark's idea, but the idea now that it might turn around and be something for the benefit of all the seniors of North Attleboro, I think it makes a lot of good sense.
Thank you. Yes, please, sir.
How you doing? My name is Richard Mayward. I'm from 68 Coral Road. And now I'm under the understanding of why I came here wasn't really why I came here. So this is what I have to say to you. Why don't you people assure us as seniors that you will have something for us to chew on before you vote on the school? Otherwise, why would I want to vote on the school if I don't have anything on the table? That's my feelings.
The idea to propose the help before we need it.
Is this crowd giving them some more? Which is what they're there for.
Yes, please, ma'am.
I just have a real quick question.
Sure.
With the tariffs going on with Canada and the cost at least 15%, if not up to 25% increases in steel and lumber right now, how do you build that into your budget?
Great question.
I believe was that addressed at the last
Yes,
meeting?
It was.
I believe it was. And does anybody recall what the answer was?
Yeah, they said that they built some of it in, and they were going to try to use local people to try to not import any materials, try to use what was available here to us.
I believe the answer is that the number is the number, and it's not going to go up from what the number is.
But if you can't build, I get that. If you
Yeah.
pass 390 million, you're not going any further. type of thing, but if you can't afford, if they're telling you we can't build it, what do you do? Do you come back for more of an override? Do you cut back on the school? I'm
Yeah.
just thinking, have you thought about this?
So, Council President, if I may.
Again, we're not the school building committee, this is the town council.
Right.
So honestly, I do believe that the right place to ask that question and get the actual answer would be at the school building committee meeting where the architects and the project managers are. They could give you a much better answer than I could. However, Mr. Bork, looks like you have.
No, so I am on the school building committee, and the price that they're targeting and they're looking at is around $290 million. What will happen is, if something goes up or there's an increase, when there are a couple of contingencies that are built into it, so there's a number there, but they will value engineer, that's their term, right, and bring it back down to, so they have to choose, let's say, a type of carpet. They won't pick what they originally planned, they'll go with something that's less. So they'll bring the cost down so they don't exceed the cost that's been allocated to the building.
There's usually a 10% contingency, correct?
And Keith.
We're not going to have anybody accuse me of ducking the limelight.
There must be an election coming up.
It's about time.
Appreciate that. Just like to note, there's a lot of people on the school building committee in the room. But the project, first of all, I really, truly encourage you to go to the school building committee MSBA website and actually learn about the project. Understand the process that's gone through to create the budget that exists today, what that approval process looks like with the state. If $1,000, right, for people that $1,000 is the straw that breaks your back, that straw is going to be there whether the school causes it or something else causes it, right? So I love this idea of a broader assessment of how to help seniors. I think it's a really, really smart idea. I know Mark's gotten a little bit of backflack for taking input. I mean, I'm not sure he should be getting blowback for that, right? So he put it out there. He took some input from a lot of different people, and he came with a modified proposal, which I think has spurred a broader conversation. I'm one of those people who gave him input that I thought that revving people up around the school, around cost of living issues, was a mistake. So I'm glad we're here. As far as the numbers go, this project's going to be a 3+ year project, right? So the 290 has factored in inflation to start with. It has factored in cost of material increases. That's all been built in there. It also includes a level of contingency. Now, nobody has obviously factored in a 25% increase in the cost of steel, right? But the project team is actively working right now to figure out what the mitigators are for that. First of all, steel is just a small fraction of the project. And that's what they said when they were here, I think 2 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago. The school building committee was here. The cost of those specific tariffs with Canada, which is the primary concern for a major construction project, are just a small piece of the puzzle. So it's not like we're talking about 25% on $290 million, right? We're talking about 25% on a very small fraction of that. Like I said, there's already contingency built in. There's already inflation built in. So I get it. I'm nervous about what 25%. Forget about the school. The cost of what it's going to do to all the other costs that we all have to bear, and the cost of inflation over the last 4 years has been unsustainable, right? But it's not going anywhere either. So, I don't know, did I answer the question? That's where steel falls in this.
Yeah. And they can get wood from U.S.
We only get 30% of our lumber from Canada.
Yeah, and the tariffs are going to impact the cost of all materials, so the U.S. sourcing will be part of it, but these are all the things that the team's going to have to work through.
Mr. Simmons, did you have a comment?
We are also going with a construction manager at risk portion. So a lot of the overages after they go through contingencies, which have already been built in, is to some extent on them and not on us.
Well, even more important, I'm sorry to cut you off, Mr. Vice President. Even more important than that is the construction manager sitting at the table today. So it's not just I wish those guys had stayed, because it's not just the architects in room. like coming up with these grandiose designs. The contract management company is sitting with them today. So when the architect draws rainbow, right? The construction manager says arch, right? And that's what's happening like right now. So this project's being managed really, really well. You might not think it's the right project for the community. This council, they've got zero say in this. Zero. You all, myself, we're all going to vote on June 3rd.
I have one vote.
Or they have, I'm sorry, they don't have zero. They each have one vote. Each have one vote on June 3rd.
Thank you. Other? Yes, sir.
I know you're tired of hearing me.
No. Absolutely
I
not.
understand what you're saying about the school, but this isn't about the school. This is about our seniors. If we wanted to know more about the school, we go on the website, or we read about it. So my thing to you on the board is, can you assure us some kind of remedy before the school is voted on? Or a good proposal that we, the seniors, would like to see?
I think what we can probably assure you of this evening is that we're going to give this measure due consideration. There's another measure that's on the agenda later tonight, which has a similar impact for seniors. I can also, so those bills will be referred to Finance Committee. I think I can also assure you that we'll probably forward or refer a discussion topic to Finance Committee that would look at some of the proposals that we heard tonight, so we could look at this issue more holistically, not just one proposal, but actually kind of think creatively as a body in terms of how we could actually better help seniors and what's the right way to do so. So I think we could assure you that we would take those steps. I think we can also assure you that we're going to look at the tax split, or that council will look at the tax split, which is another way in which we could help mitigate the impacts to residents. So all of those things are things that I think we can assure you that we will be looking at and we'll start looking at them before the high school vote.
Yes.
Right.
So what you're telling me is you'll have something on the table before we vote on the school?
I'm not going to tell you we're going to have the perfect answer by then.
No, but are you going to try to get one?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I get it.
I think that was always.
Are there other, I don't think I was speaking for the entire council there, but again, that was just my inclination of the council, and we can make that motion tonight after this discussion. You guys can see.
I amend my thought.
Sure.
John Donahue, 34 Donald Tennant Circle. One of the things you have to, this council, these ladies and gentlemen that have served on the council, they have done a really good job of trying to help out seniors as much as possible with a lot of different programs. So if they say they're going to work on this, you can take it to the bank that they will work on this, okay? They are people of integrity, and they mean what they say, and they say what they mean.
Thank you, Mr. Donahue. And please.
I just have one last thing to say. I'm still Joan Gustaff, and I still live at 66 Hillside Road. Thank you, Mr. Gould, for bringing this public forum to us so that we had an opportunity to say what we need to say and what our fears are. Thank you all, counselors, for listening to us.
Thank you. I would love to take a motion to close the public hearing. Is there
So moved.
I have a motion to close the public hearing. I have a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I will do a roll call vote. Ms. St. Pierre?
Aye.
Mr. Costello? Aye. Mr. Gould? Aye. Mr. Shanahan?
Aye.
Mr. Bogan?
Aye.
Mr. Donovan?
Aye.
Aye. Justin Parre, I'm an aye. Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
All the way
That
across.
motion closes 8-0. The public hearing is closed.
Now I can retire in peace.
Mr. Donovan?
Just before everyone leaves, I just want to just say one thing to Mrs. Gustafson for what she just said.
Gustaff.
Gustaff, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Our job here is to represent all of the residents of North Attleboro. Seniors, children, everybody. Our job is to listen to you. That's why we're here. We want people to come. That's why we have a public comment section at every one of our meetings. That's why we're here. So please, don't ever feel like you need to thank us. That's what you elected us for. That's exactly what we're here to do. So thank you for coming, all of you. And I can't promise you that anything will happen before the vote. Speaking for myself, I don't think that's realistic to promise that. But what I can promise you, like the council president said, we will look into this as much as we can. We've heard some great ideas tonight. When you're dealing with, for example, with Councilor Gould's proposal tonight, this is something that if we voted on, it would then have to go to the state and then work its way through their process. There are other things that we can do. There are things that we can adopt locally, local options, which could happen quicker. But we don't even know what some of our options might be. So these are the sorts of things we need to look at. That's why I say I don't think it would be realistic to promise you something. Believe me, if we can get you something before, we'll try. But I don't think any of us here could, speaking for myself, I can't speak for the rest of the council, but I don't think it would be fair to us to promise you that we'd have that before the vote. I just don't think that we could do it. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Mr. President. I was okay with the proposal I originally said to tie it to the high school, but talking with other people, it was more accepted to break it apart and just do something for the seniors. So I'd be okay with either one of them. If
It's
there's,
not all the seniors, right?
oh, sorry, not all the seniors, I misspoke. All the qualifying seniors for the income qualifying seniors. I'd be okay helping the seniors tonight. I've vetted these proposals, and if there's something good we can do, let's do it. Something good we can do at a later time, let's add that to it. So I would make the motion that's in here, that's to approve it as amended. I can read the whole thing out. In the amended measure, that motion right there.
So you want us to approve it tonight? That was what your motion was. You want us to approve it tonight?
That'd be my motion.
Does anybody want to second the motion to approve it tonight? I don't hear a second.
I will make a motion to refer it to finance.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Donovan, a second from Mr. Bogan to refer it to Finance Committee. Is there any discussion on the motion?
So what?
I have a discussion on the
Yeah,
motion.
Mr. Shanahan.
What if we referred more of a conceptual thing to the Finance Committee as opposed to this one particular item where we could look at something like the freeze?
I love that.
Because I thought the freeze was a
Excellent.
very interesting idea that I hadn't heard before. So I would think if we referred, I don't know, some sort of conceptual tax relief for seniors to the Finance Committee, then we could leave it a discussion as opposed to a specific motion. This plan could be discussed as well as the other ones. I know you love this idea, Mark.
No,
but
it's a
there were
good
a lot
idea.
of people in the room that didn't think it went far enough. And so I think why do this and then do something else when maybe we can do one holistic thing? And so I don't think anyone here is, I don't want to speak for anyone. I'm not comfortable voting this off the floor tonight. So I think instead of referring this one particular thing, and then we're referring the next one to finance, and then we're referring a discussion and referring three separate things to finance tonight, if we refer to general conceptual strategy on looking at our options, that might make more sense.
Yeah. In fact, I think you could potentially make, you could even make that a separate motion. We can make it that motion, because we're still kind of on the topic of the public hearing on this topic, so I think you'd be within your rights to make such a motion. Whether it's associated with the motion that's already on the table, or if it was a separate one.
Can make an amendment.
Or we could amend the current motion. Exactly. We could do it either way. I think it would be within our rights.
I would defer.
Right now, we have.
I would defer to Councilor Simmons.
We have a motion on the table, and we have a second. And we're asking if there's discussion on that. If someone wants to propose an amendment, which you just did, you can move to amend.
I would defer to Vice President Simmons.
Go ahead. I would refer this motion that we just had a public hearing on, and as part of that, to further explore a broader senior tax relief.
That's what
So that would be an amendment to
That was what Andy was saying.
original.
Yes, yes, that's what he's saying.
So this and that.
And then any other ideas too.
So do I have a motion to amend?
The original.
Hey, can I build off John's suggestion?
Sure.
So I get that we're not going to pass it tonight. So in the spirit of moving it to FineCom, so we refer this idea, and I think it's more effective to refer a couple other specific ideas rather than just say, let's refer a conceptual plan. And I've done substantial legal research on this issue. We've maxed out all the opt-in ones. So it's either this one or the freeze, which I don't know if anyone's actually passed the freeze yet. There's a lot of bills pending.
Not here.
But let's do that. Let's do the freeze, let's do this one, and let's do another means-tested 25% to 200% of the circuit breaker. That's the most common one people are doing. So it'd be those three that we would refer, plus any other ideas.
Didn't a lot of the seniors say that they didn't qualify for the circuit breaker, right? And if you don't qualify for the circuit breaker, you don't
Oh,
qualify.
so they wanted a more broad one.
So
It's just we're gonna
What's
spend,
the difference between discussions, like getting some more ideas? I think this young lady had brought wonderful ideas to the table, and I think you still had some more under your belt. So I think it would be an opportunity to have the discussion to see what other things are out there. You brought 3 different towns that are doing a similar thing that you were looking at. I bet you there are numerous other towns that are doing different things as well. I think this is a big topic and a really important one. I would hate to make a decision hastily because we want to do something faster. I'd want to make it right, and I'd want to make it more impactful for you. For me eventually too, because I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, I hope. So that's,
All right, so we have a motion on the table that was seconded. We had some discussion about potentially amending the motion. Would anybody like to make an amended motion?
I make a motion to refer this measure and a broader general discussion of various, not to be limited to anything, senior tax proposals, senior tax relief proposals.
Second.
Motion and a second, and the understanding would be that you guys would come back to us with a recommendation, potentially even a measure.
Yes.
Could come back to us from the FinCom, not just a topic of discussion to come back.
Before we vote procedurally, could we get a ruling? We have 4 counselors on finance. Counselor Gould's done a lot of the research. If he could come present, can we find a ruling from KP Law to make sure that we don't break?
we can just advertise the meeting as a meeting of the council.
It's going to be a finance meeting.
Well, just in case a quorum of the council is present. That's what other towns do.
Let's just get a ruling from KP Law and the right way to do it. We'll get our town's legal counsel to give us that advice.
Yes.
And we'll do it the right way and make sure it's done correctly. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion and the second? Mr. Gould?
I'm in support of it. One other thing, just to get our minds thinking about it. This was to help 116 seniors for $17. If we help every senior in town, it's going to be 1,000 seniors, so it's going to be $170. So just to get it thinking.
Yeah.
That's all, but I like it.
So, Mr. Donovan.
Just a point of order, I think. So we're voting on an amendment and then a measure. Correct? So we're doing 2 votes right now.
No, he amended.
An amendment and then a referral.
Got to vote on the
Referral.
amendments,
Yes, thank you.
then on
Okay.
the measure.
I'm just making sure that I always get confused. when
We're
we-
voting on the amendment to the referral.
Right.
And once
And
that
then the
passes,
referral.
we're going to vote on the referral.
Thank you for
Then you guys can all go home. We can't.
We can.
Isn't government fun?
Yeah.
But make sure you leave your ideas.
I agree. I think
You can stay if you want.
I think they've had enough fun.
So all in favor of the amendments?
Thank you. I think this is a good idea.
Yeah.
We don't want to rush. We don't want to rush into anything, particularly with the financial impact. Just take a vote on the floor.
No rash decisions.
Without analysis would not be a wise policy of this council. So, with all that being said, we have an amendment, and we had a second. Is there any discussion? Any further discussion on the amendment? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Now we have the original motion.
With the amendment.
The amendment included, and we already have the motion and the second.
Yep.
So, is there any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that was to refer to Finance Committee. Any opposed? No, all right. Any abstentions? That motion passes 8-0. The measure and the discussion are referred to the Finance Committee.